Welcome everybody out to podcast number 453. We're going to talk about leveling work. Stay with us.
This is the Elevate Construction Podcast, delivering remarkable content for workers, leaders, and companies in construction wanting to take their next step. Get ready to step out of your comfort zone with Jason Schroeder as he encourages you to do better, live a remarkable life, and expect more. Let's go.
Welcome everybody. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're enjoying this little series about production control and schedule control and tactic control. These are these concepts are really enlightening to me because, like I said before in previous podcasts, when somebody says, "Hey, I want to increase productivity on the project side," most of the time nobody has any idea how to do that. People will say, "Well, we're going to go ahead and add more manpower. We're going to work overtime, do some of these things, and this isn't the fastest way to get work done, and it's not the way to increase productivity." So I'm really passionate about this. I did a LinkedIn post and a podcast before talking about the difference between pushing versus building capacity. When we push, the old way of increasing or attempting to increase productivity, which actually didn't work, it worked in the opposite direction, was throwing manpower at the problem, throwing money at the problem, making workers work too fast and too long, working with unsafe and unclean conditions, working with too much dependency, not having enough time in the schedule, having too large or too small batch sizes, working in an improper sequence, moving start dates up without preparation, throwing materials at the problem, becoming frantic so you can prove to your boss that you're working hard. So these are the ways that a superintendent or a project manager or a site manager would push. Now, the way they create capacity is by removing roadblocks, installing your rate the first time, aligning and managing procurement, keeping a consistent rhythm, keeping it clean, safe, and organized, improving team health and stability, taking more time to prepare and make work ready, increasing communication, optimizing bottlenecks, increasing flow. So there's a difference between pushing and building capacity. And the things that I'm talking about with the Takt control are very much create capacity type things. And there is nothing about any of it that has to do with pushing or the old fashioned way of, hey, let's just rush and get it done and waste resources and really attempt to push this through the knothole or pull this through the knothole. So let's keep going with this podcast series, Leveling Work. When we say, hey, with tact control, production control, schedule control, we can really do well and create flow and improve our schedule by leveling work. What we mean by that is that work isn't happening in spikes. If there was a histogram, actually, let me just do this really quickly. I'm going to Google histogram. I looked it up the other day. I thought it was pretty neat. A diagram consisting of, oh, dang it. That's not histogram definition. That's not it. Oh, yeah. A diagram consisting of rectangles whose area is proportional to the frequency of a variable and whose width is equal to the class interval. So basically, it's the little bar chart where you see the rectangles becoming larger, as in this instance where there's more manpower. Sorry, I wanted to look that up for us real quick just to make sure I was using the right word. I referenced this the other day and I was like, okay, yeah, I know what this means. So if you're thinking about a histogram, we don't want on week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way through 1 through 80 or whatever, or month 1 through 24. We don't want to see, 50 workers, 60 workers, 70 workers, and then 300, and then 280, and then 10. What we want to see is, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 75, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 80, 90, 80, 75, 60, 50, 40. We want to see a ramp up, a leveling, and a ramping down. Meaning we want to level that work. And the reason we want to level work is because when you think about it on the histogram, when work spikes, when we have a lot to do, think about what happens. The team is overburdened. Our communication systems are overburdened. Even our restrooms and our systems and our logistics are overburdened. The information systems, getting them the preparation that they need, are overburdened. And if you think about it, when that histogram goes up and it spikes, what happens to our checking of pre-task plans? What happens to our preparation of the work? What happens to our quality process? What happens to our initial inspections? What happens to our scheduling meetings? What happens to our field walks? What happens to our breeding plans? What happens to our normal meeting cycle? What happens to all of our normal things every day that we do to keep a project running and running well? And the answer is that it becomes much more difficult. And as such, uh, because it's more difficult, we stop doing a lot of the things that we should be doing. So that's why we want to always level work to manage production, because we have to have that capacity, and we have to make sure uh, that we are focused on the right things, which is to maintain a level of flow and a team that can manage the work. I was giving an analogy to somebody the other day, and I said, what would you rather do if you need? And I didn't come up with a better actual substance than this by way of example, but I'll just give it to you. Like if you were attempting to squirt out, actually, here's a better one. Instead of using ketchup, I'll use frosting. Like if you had to frost a cake, and Katie and I were watching the British Bake Show last night for date night, so this is kind of on my mind, and you had to have that done on time. In the British Bake Show, there's a time limit, people are stressed, and at the end, there's the rushing music. And it's like, the music is going really, really fast, and there's some intensity there, and people are like, how many more minutes do we have? 1 minute left. And they're like, oh my gosh, if you needed to pipe frosting on a cake faster, you can either keep the same size nozzle or you can change the nozzle. And so the question is, what would you rather do? Would you rather squeeze with more pressure and possibly blow out the bag and then end up with an even larger mess, or miss the time deadline? Or would you rather just create capacity and change out the nozzle? Would you rather push or create capacity? Push or create capacity? And creating capacity means that we always have capacity for the team. And so leveling work makes sure that we always have capacity amongst the team to do the things that we're supposed to do that will keep the project running. It's all about preparation. So there are 5 key things that I've determined from these simulations and from experience in the field and from studying. So I didn't just make these up. I mean, these are real concepts, and they're lean concepts. There are 5 key things that we can do. One is adjusting tax zones. The other one is adjusting work packages and work steps. The third one is leveling the information flow. Number 4, bring materials and equipment just in time. And number 5, leveling manpower or workers. So let's do these one by one. Adjusting tax zones. If we have an area that we find on the project that has more work, more level of complexity, more level of effort, then we need to adjust tax zones to level that out. Meaning, we don't want to go area A to B to C, and then really slow down on area D, and then go to E, F, G. We want to level those out. So we would transfer some of the work from that area, from area D, zone D, tax zone D, and level that out into other areas. And we would do that by adjusting the tax zones. There's absolutely nothing wrong with adjusting the tact zones, the scheduling zones, the phasing zones, the sequences as we are in construction, especially because we need to create that flow. There might be some caveats to that in the sense that maybe procurement of materials doesn't align exactly, and you may have some interruptions. But for the most part, you can adjust those zones, especially when you're dealing with rough end, overhead, mechanical, drywall, framing, flooring, things like that. You'll have all the materials you need for those areas. So adjusting tax zones can really level out the work by making sure that you have an equal amount of level of effort from zone to zone. The other one is adjusting work packages and work steps. This is a big one. A superintendent and foreman, the area superintendents, assistant superintendents should always be adjusting the work packages, meaning the scopes of work within a tact wagon, and the work steps that are within those work packages. And if there needs to be some work steps that transfer to another tact wagon, or even an entire work package or a work package that needs to be split in order to level the work and level the worker counts, then we do that. And the reason that we do that is because we want consistent worker counts. We want consistent work going in place. We want a consistent amount of materials. We want a consistent information flow, consistent flow of equipment. We want consistent everything. So leveling the amount of work packaged within a sequence per tack zone is a very strategic and can sometimes be a really neat tactic. So it can be a strategy, and it can also be a go-to tactic that we follow. And it's very, 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 very helpful and very, very profitable when we do that. Number 3, leveling information flow. This will be a natural outcome as we level everything else. But I do want to say that when we level information flow, especially with the designers and with permissions, then we will have a better chance of getting the information out in one piece flow so that we can get it to the workers. And so when we plan in our schedules to have our submittals and our procurement, basically the submittal process going through the designers and having those approvals done in our coordination, having those approvals done with the designers, I always recommend leveling that flow. And that way we can get information more in a one-piece flow, and it won't be batched and come too late. And so I want to level information flow with the flow of the work. And so that also goes down to, actually, I had this at number 5, but I'll move it to number 4, leveling worker counts or manpower. I don't know if the industry has firmly moved into a better term for this, but so I'll just say manpower for right now. But leveling manpower, if we have adjusted tax zones and if we have adjusted work packages and work steps, we should be able to level manpower. But here's why I also added this sticky in here as well, because if you see that there's an inconsistency in our worker counts on our crews, then we know we still have a problem. Meaning, if there's, let me give you an example. If there's a concrete, mild reinforced concrete decks with concrete columns and walls, I want that concrete crew on the columns to have a smaller crew, like let's say a 3-person crew, working consistently at that task and in a continuous manner, instead of having the column crew have 6 people on it, get done early, and have to transfer over to the decking crew. I would rather have them stay focused and level that manpower by crew, because it keeps consistency and allows us to focus. Very powerful topics here. Last one is bringing materials and equipment just in time. Now, people that don't like just in time don't know what just in time is. Just in time is bringing materials and information, everything that we need out according to a flow, just in time, according to the right buffers. So that buffer will have an amount and a duration. The other thing you can do with materials, instead of bringing them on the project site and having to trip over them and doing basically trade stacking over materials, you can stage those materials in staging yards, or what we call supermarkets, right? We can bring them to the staging yard and then into the building. But we definitely don't bring in large quantities of materials onto the actual floors before they're needed. An example of this, and the Lean Builder book talked about this really nicely and gave a really good example, bringing out duct for the entire floor instead of area by area. We bring out materials and equipment just in time. We don't go stock the whole building or the whole floor, because we're just tripping over materials. And so the leveling on a consistent basis will enable us to not only keep consistent worker counts and materials coming just in time, but it will also reduce costs, and it will make sure that our project team isn't overburdened. So I really like this one. I hope you've enjoyed it. And my message is, on we go.
Please join us next time in elevating the entire construction experience for workers, leaders, and companies coast to coast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to share with your construction colleagues and help us spread the word by rating, subscribing, and leaving a review on your preferred podcast listening platform. We really appreciate it. We'll catch you next time on the Elevate Construction Podcast.